You know when there are different types of heroes that they look up when growing up as a child? Sometimes it could be an actual person that they really look up to in real life, or it could be a fictional character as well. And I guess in my case, I had four heroes in my life growing up because most of my time I grew up watching movies and TV shows. So it only makes sense that Luke Skywalker, Spider-Man, Superman, and Optimus Prime were my heroes growing up because they all have a good sense of morality about doing the right thing or taking responsibility for certain aspects of your life. And I guess one certain aspect that I'm pretty sure Optimus demonstrates, as the great Peter Cullen quotes his late brother Larry Cullen about the character himself and what was the inspiration for Optimus Prime's voice.
Same time, and he said, "Peter, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to an audition, Larry." He said, "What are you going to audition for, Peter?" I said, "Going to be a truck." He started to laugh, I started to laugh, and I said, "But Larry, he's a hero truck." And his voice got very low, and there was a seriousness in him, and the way he talked, there was a gentle and a smoothness to it. And he said, "If you're going to be a hero, Peter, remember, be strong enough to be gentle. Be compassionate, be understanding. Don't go yelling and screaming." It's the way he said it. That influence that he'd had on me, his voice, it's the way he had said what he had said, just rolled out of me. Just came rolling out of my, and it felt so comfortable, felt so good. By the time it was all over and I was driving away, I had this warm feeling that I just did the best audition I've ever done in my life. And so my brother Larry was directly responsible for that, and for that I'm forever grateful.
Why am I saying all this? Why am I saying this corny stuff? Well, first off, I don't give a rat's ass if you find it corny. That's your opinion. I am who I am because of these great stories that have been presented to us when we were younger. And there's a reason why these characters still exist to this day, even though one of them has been ultimately been destroyed. Never forget. But even though the Rise of the Beast movie sort of came close with Optimus Prime's character, I think Transformers 1 really nailed it, and especially with Chris Hemsworth's performance as Orion Pax / Optimus Prime. I was honestly surprised on how well he did it, which I guess we segue to the actual review itself, because spoiler alert, I do love this movie. And I felt like I kept my expectations very moderate. I mean, I was excited for it and I was hoping it was good, and my expectations have been met. I will probably talk certain parts about the movie, so in a non-spoiler short review, in a sense, go watch this movie. If you're a Transformers fan and you got a friend that knows nothing about Transformers, I highly recommend you bring them with you, because that's what I did. I brought a friend who knew nothing about the Transformers. He only knows what's in the live action movies, and he was just blown away of how much lore there was about the Transformers, and he was just happy to see that there was no humans and the Transformers were acting more like characters and you get to know them. And he was so surprised about the whole Megatron and Optimus dynamic. It definitely brought a smile upon my face that we finally got a movie that introduces the normies, like truly introduce them to the world of Transformers. But yeah, go watch it. The animation's great, voice acting is great, soundtrack, I'll get to the spoilers, it's just so good. But yeah, I highly recommend it. I know that people have a problem with the animation, but don't let that put you off. To me personally, I think it looks good. It looks pretty unique from everything else. I'd rather have animated movies look unique than samey, and it's definitely one of the reasons why I do miss 2D animation. But yeah, go watch it. Now, let's get to spoilers. There are certain parts of the film that I know that will cater to more hardcore Transformers fans when it comes to the lore. From what I know, it's a lot from Transformers Prime and the War for Cybertron games, and I looked up a few videos about the comic books, but I haven't fully read them. But I just love a lot of stuff that implemented from the Transformers Prime show. It's my favorite Transformers series ever. The fact that we have Arachnid, She's really creepy. Especially all the eyes stuff. That was cool. And the fact that Brian Tyler, the composer for the Transformers Prime TV series, did the soundtrack for this film, phenomenal. It was so good. And Sly Fox, he implemented the Transformers Prime theme into the soundtrack, but it's a lot more subtle and it swells up very slowly compared to the epicness from the TV. But I thought that was a nice little touch and Easter egg for those who have watched Transformers Prime. The action is so good. We actually get to see the Transformers fight each other, but I was surprised they didn't use too much of the action. The main importance and key thing about this film is that it's very character driven. It really focuses on their development of Orion Pax and D16. We follow their journeys leading up to the destination that we know as both Optimus Prime and Megatron. And I think they handled that really well, and the voice acting really sells that the two of them are friends and that there's a history between them. D16 was the guy that has Orion's back whenever he's in trouble, and that pays off in that moment when we see him turn into Megatron. Pretty much he snaps, finally. It was definitely a long live the king moment. I would not be surprised they were inspired by that scene. And for those old subscribers out there, I did make a video of my concerns about the cast of Transformers 1. And I was dead wrong. They did fantastic. Chris Hemsworth, he didn't slip up the Aussie accent at all from what I've noticed, and the fact that he really changes his tone of voice when he finally becomes Optimus is also pretty impressive. He was not imitating Peter Cullen, but I will say they did do a voice modulator when he puts the faceplate on. I find that an interesting choice. Keegan-Michael Key is good as Bumblebee. He's funny. Every time he does the Badassatron line, it makes me very sad. The fact that he could actually pull off a Decepticon voice.
It's pronounced Badassatron. In case you were wondering. Badassatron.
And I do hope that they bring him in for a future Transformers project for him to voice a Decepticon, whether it's a TV show or another live action movie. Because he's got the voice. And Scarlett Johanason is good as Elita 1. Obviously, a lot more upbeat compared to her performance as Black Widow, because I'm pretty sure the majority of people would see her as Black Widow. So it's very opposite from that. And then she's very smug, very I'm better to you type of mentality. But the banter between her and Orion is pretty good, and also shows a little signs between their relationship, which I'm assuming they're developing for future sequels, which I do hope this film gets a sequel. But yeah, I think people will have a problem with Elita 1 telling Orion Pax that I'm better than you. And again, Orion Pax calls her out for having a very shitty pep talk. But while that is somewhat true as we see her in action in the movie, once Orion Pax becomes Optimus and we see him in action, highly doubt Elita 1 is better than him now. Sentinel Prime. He's just that Transformers character you love to hate. A mixture of the live action and Transformers animated counterparts. Even down to his weapon. His weapon is basically the live action variant. But yeah, he's an asshole. He's the villain of the film. And John Hamm does such a good job playing this false hero that we now know that he killed the original 13 Primes and pretty much takes the name of Prime. And I will say the movie definitely turns into a darker route once we have D16's rant about how his whole life was a lie and now he just wants to kill Sentinel Prime. As soon as we hear Brian Tyree Henry's performance in that part, I can fully understand why he was casted as Megatron. And so I was pretty shocked to see that when Megatron actually does kill Sentinel, it was in the most gruesome way possible. Definitely a little bit of the live action violence of the Transformers implemented in that part. And I was shocked, especially also when he accidentally almost killed Orion and he's just bits and pieces. Again, very good tonal shift. I knew that the trailer was hiding something. Even the director was talking about how they were inspired by the 80s movie, and I just said to myself, what part? Is it the part where they advertise another adventure with the Transformers, but then when you see the movie, all your favorite Transformers get murdered? Obviously, this movie is not to that extreme, which is one of the reasons why I don't fully like the 80s movie. I mean, it's a good movie, but I'm saying The fact that they kill off all your favorite Transformers in the first act is just so ridiculous. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the newer characters in that film. So yeah, the 80s movie, I know people say it's their favorite Transformers movie, but it's because of that reason I don't fully love it. I love the fact that the Transformers are characters. Finally fleshed out, the three-dimensional characters, not just CGI props to be in the background. Rise of the Beast was going somewhere with that, because the fact that it took so long for the Transformers to talk in their vehicle forms was absurd. Because when they're in their vehicle forms, they're just an advertisement for the car company in the background, and it's just dumb. That always annoyed me when watching the old Michael Bay films. At least Rise of the Beast didn't do that. And yeah, I know Hot Rod talk in the car in Last Night, but The Last Night was shit. It's one of my worst movies of all time. Here we get to see the Transformers. What was their planet like? What was their daily lives? We get to see their goals, their aspirations. You know, they're not just mindless killing machines as we love to see them do in the live action movies. Don't get me wrong, that's cool. But if you have good character writing, at least make us care for these Transformers when they die. Because when they get killed in the Michael Bay films, you felt nothing. We didn't really have a major death besides Sentinel, but that guy's an asshole anyways. But we felt something when it came to the betrayal of Megatron and Optimus, and it's truly tragic. And yeah, it could be a cliche of the whole once upon a time we were friends, now we're enemies thing, but it works so well. There's a reason why those kinds of stories work so well, especially when it's written and executed very well. None of that subvertive bullshit, man. All you're gonna do is piss off the fans. And this is what they did. They made a film for the fans while also considering introducing newer fans with the world of Transformers itself. The first few seconds of the film instantly tells you everything about Cybertron. What's it about? How the Transformers were created, and the whole lore about the Matrix of Leadership. So I thought the humor was going to ruin the movie's tone, but I think they used it pretty sparingly. There were some jokes that didn't land for me because it kind of reminded me of those shitty MCU movies from Phase 4. But other than that, the Badassatron joke, the midway point when they did the joke again, it was a bit but then when we see B with the helmet and the sword arms, and I thought, oh, that's pretty badass, and he does the Badassatron, that was really well landed. That gave me a good laugh, because the fact that we have a payoff of the Badassatron is just so funny. And there's so many Transformers. I saw RC, Ironhide, Ratchet, Jazz, Hound, Wheeljack, you know, the classic ones. But there were others. I saw Blur's name in the racing segment of the film, but yeah, it's one of those movies you have to pause and see who else you missed, because I'm pretty sure I missed quite a few characters that was in there. Apparently some characters from GoBots are in it. I mean, they do make a joke about the GoBots, so that was pretty cool. Seeing all the potential Decepticons like Starscream, Soundwave, Shockwave, they all look great. Steve Buscemi portrays Starscream so well, and the fact that we sort of have an origin of why Starscream has that very squeaky voice is pretty funny. And it's a bit weird that he's just telling Megatron to hit me more and stuff like that, like he likes being abused. It was a very bizarre moment, and my friend and I were just sort of laughing about it. But yeah, when Megatron chokes him, you can hear his voice just breaking. His voice box was breaking, and he starts getting the squeaky voice. Funny enough, in the latest lore of Transformers, Megatron's the one that rips off B's voice box. So it seems to be a consistent thing where Megatron just hates talkative characters. I mean, that could be a headcanon if you want, but I just find that funny that, yeah, Megatron's the reason Starscream's voice is messed up, and he's the reason that he rips off Bumblebee's voice. He just hates annoying characters, which I honestly thought he was going to rip off B's voice box in that final battle, but it didn't happen, so I guess we'll find out in the sequels. But yeah, overall, I love the film, and we finally get to see the origin of Optimus Prime. There have been many versions of his origin, but it's definitely a combination of many different source materials combined into this one movie. And I know there could be some fans going, well, we wanted the War for Cybertron stuff. There's not enough action or this stuff. This is definitely a setup towards the War of Cybertron. And I think we really needed this film for the audience to care about these characters and see the tragedy between the fallout of Optimus and Megatron. Because we gotta keep in mind, they also wanted to introduce this world to the normies who don't know about Transformers like we do. But if it's not your cup of tea or you're disappointed that we didn't get enough hardcore robot action, I understand, and it sucks if you didn't enjoy it. But for me, I loved it, and I'm really excited to see what they do next. I'm definitely more excited for the sequel of this film rather than the Transformers and G.I. Joe crossover. Since they let go of Stephen Caple Jr., I don't know what's happening with that film at all. And it'll be interesting to see the Transformers fight the Quintessons. So that's probably the first thing that will happen. So I'm guessing that Megatron and Optimus will team up to fight the Quintessons. And then if they're doing a trilogy, then the third movie will be full on War for Cybertron. But I do love the fact that Optimus still has his ending speeches, sending the message to whoever it is that he's going to kick their ass. I'm just happy that we got a Transformers movie that truly celebrates the brand. And like I said, I highly recommend bringing a normie friend, because they're just going to discover things about this franchise that they didn't even know. Because why? Because we focus too much on human drama in the live action films.
Two things, okay? Shut up.
And we get to see an Optimus Prime that truly inspires others. And like Larry would say, be strong enough to be gentle. But hey, these are just the opinions from a Gumby.